Hey students, we are so excited for this lesson with you guys. Drum roll please as Mrs. Danagelis comes in screen. Woo! We have geohistograms and we have really big ones for you in your classrooms. Your teachers all got a big one. And bonus, you guys all get your own geohistogram. We feel like Oprah. You get a histogram. You get a geohistogram. Everyone gets a geohistogram to use and answer questions off of. So now Mrs. Danagelis is going to do another brief overcap of how to use this awesome tool.
Boys and girls, remember when I said this might look confusing, but it won't eventually? That is what's happening to you right now. You're saying, wait a minute, you don't have to describe this to me again. I kind of know how to use it. That's great. I hope you're thinking that. But I do want to recap just in case there's been some confusion, because now you have one on your desk. You get to touch it, feel it, and use it. I want to remind you, though, those are very precious. They're expensive. Please do not peel them, draw on them, cut them, any of those things. Treat them kindly, please. Okay, so let's start off. World Geohistogram, the world. So at the very top, we're noticing the regions. Americas, North and South America. Europe, Africa, Middle East, Central and South Asia, East Asia, Oceania. So those are our different regions. And this goes from west to east on a map. We showed you the map earlier. It flows perfectly. So if you want to double check that, you find a map that starts with the Americas, and you'll notice that the map follows in that direction. That makes sense. The other thing we want you to point out to you is the timeline. So the timeline is on the left, and that is showing, first of all, this is the marking of 0. BCE is before Common Era, or BC was the old terminology. Now we use BCE. And then we have CE, or Common Era, which was also known as 80. That's our break point right there. And this is the time that we are in right now. We are in 2020. So we are up in this region right here, CE or 80. That's where we are right now. And this is a long time ago, below this area. Okay, having said all of that, now we've got these cool, colorful blobs. What are those blobs? Those are the civilizations and the empires. This is when people start to live in large groups together. So we are noticing down here, we're starting to get some of those people living together. Chapter 2, we get to study these groups of people and how they started off with agriculture and living together and being able to sustain themselves with food that they could keep over a period of time. Each blob represents a different civilization or empire. When the blob is wide, when it goes this way, that means it takes up more physical space. So that means it was large, and having more land is power. So certainly Rome, we could see, would have been a powerful empire because it was very wide. Do we know exactly how wide? No. There are no indications for the exact size of that particular empire, but we can see that it was big. We can also notice if the empire is long this way, that it lasted for a long time. So when it goes in this direction, it's the duration of time. So we have to focus on that to know the time. Noticing also, boys and girls, that these are, and we've kind of talked about this, so you're not surprised, but look at what we do here. From 1,000 to 0. 1,000 years spans in this area. Can you get an exact date for something when 1,000 years goes by in this general area? No hash marks even. Of course not. You are generalizing. So we're getting a sense of an approximate date. You wouldn't be able to zero in within a few years. It's more of a generalized year based upon this large span of space. I did mark off, and we want to show you that if you notice it's from 0 to 500, that must mean that we can mark off 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, now to 500 years. And if we space those about evenly, then we could say, well, this is about 100 years, about 100 CE, and we can make that assumption. We can say this is about 200 CE, and we can make that assumption. So in a general time frame, can I say 201? No, I wouldn't know that, but I can know about how long that is across. So or about the amount of time. Also, we want to notice that we're getting closer to 0, so it goes from 3 to 2 to 1 to 0. That gets tricky, and to think about that when you're working in this spot on the timeline, because you are going closer, your time frame is becoming where you're getting near 0. Okay, I think that about sums it up for our recap of the geohistogram, and I hope that you thought that was all easy, because the next job you have is to answer some questions using your geohistogram that you luckily have on your desk that you're able to touch and feel and discuss with a partner and figure out what you think the answers are to these questions.
All right, students, go ahead and keep your Chromebooks closed. We are going to take some time now to practice using our geohistogram. Feel free to chat with the neighbor nearby as you figure out the answers using your own personal geohistogram, okay? So here we go, 4 questions. The first one, what are 3 main pieces of information that you can figure out about various civilizations and empires using the geohistograms? Teachers, go ahead and pause me for about 1 to 2 minutes so students have a chance to figure this out. All right, your next question. Which empire lasted for the longest period of time continuously? Teachers, go ahead and pause. All right, question number 3. What empire existed after Greece but before Byzantium in Africa? Last question. What was the earliest civilization in Central and South Asia? Okay, we're going to jump back to the large geohistogram and give you guys the answers. All right, kids, now that you have tried your best using your poster, we are going to have you actually open up a Google Doc, and you're going to be typing in your answers and turning in an assignment. But we're going to go through the first 4 questions with you together. So teachers, you can pause the video and have everyone get there. Everyone needs to open up in their Google Classroom the geohistogram assignment, and we're going to go over the answers together. So go ahead and do that. All right, hopefully you all have that up in front of you now. Now we are going to go through number 1 through 4 together.
So you can type in the answers as we find them. Before you were just practicing. Now we're going to actually scribe them in once you see the answers. So don't type yet, just listen for a second. So number 1 said, what 3 pieces of information can you figure out about various civilizations or empires using the geohistogram? Why do we use this thing? Well, we can see the number of years it existed by using the timeline. Yes, it's more generalized. We can certainly get an idea. We can see approximately, let's see, how large it was space-wise. So we don't know exact mileage or kilometers, but we can see if it was large or small, if it was in several regions, if it was just in one area, so we can get a sense of that space that it takes up. And we know that space is power, so if it's bigger, we can assume some things about that. And then the location of the empire civilization. What region was it located in? What areas did it take up? So those are some 3 generalized things we can figure out from the geohistogram, and then we can use that to synthesize other information. Hey, wait a minute. If Persia was this big in these regions, what was going on with Greece? What about over in Asia? So you can start to make some bigger picture assumptions based upon those 3 general ideas.
Right, so the 3 ideas are the number of years it existed, the location, and then the size of the empire civilization in comparison to others. Now, number 2, which empire lasted the longest period of time? And this is continuous, okay? So we want to go all the way at the bottom first, start there. Let's first check with this one right here, and this is Egypt actually, the old, mid, new, the orange right there, that's Egypt. If you notice, it goes all the way up through Africa to the very top. So this is the longest period of time, the empire that's lasted the longest period of time. It is Egypt.
And that it's a little bit deceiving. I don't like that because they covered up there, but you just have to notice that it continues on, as Miss Richards just showed you. Okay.
And then number 3, what empire existed after Greece but before Byzantium in Africa? So how I'm going to find that answer is I'm going to go to Africa first, because that's an easy location that I can find. Then I'm going to go down. Okay, I know that one place is Greece, so here's Greece. And then the other one is kind of a tough word. It's Byzantium. And that's this orange one right here. And then you can see right in the middle, Rome. So the empire that existed after Greece. So after Greece, it would go up on the timeline. And then before Byzantium, your answer is Rome.
Okay, good job, boys and girls. I hope that you're typing those in as you have a chance to fill those in. You probably got all those right so far, so thank you for doing that and staying on top of it. The last question that we asked you to do in advance was question 4, and it said, what was the earliest civilization in Central and South Asia? So taking Ms. Richards' clue, I'm going to go ahead and look in Central and South Asia, but it says earliest, so I'm going to go down the timeline and find something that happened early on. And you'll notice that with the solid line, that is the Indus River Valley, or Indus Valley. So you can indicate that on your paper. The dashed lines mean that they're starting to become groups. We saw on the last video with Otzi that he was living in Europe during the dash times because they were starting to group up with people, but they weren't quite the large enough to be a civilization or an empire yet. So the answer to number 4 is Indus Valley, and this is right here in the Central and South Asia region. So you have those answers now. Now you guys get to finish the paper yourselves. You are good workers, you're independent, you know how to use the geohistogram. You all have your own so you can see it. You may work in groups or pairs at least if you'd like to, kind of offer each other some ideas and work through that together. We'd love for you to do that if you can. And then you need to submit your document when you are done, please.
And don't forget your reflection at the end of the hour. Thank you.